Hey guys, how is everybody doing? Sorry to keep you waiting like that. Just had some last minute things to, you know, finish up here. Getting ready, connecting cables, stuff like that. So, sorry to keep you waiting. I've been pretty good about starting on time recently. So, anyway, good morning, everybody. With a little bit of morning that's left, it is a beautiful day outside. Today is March 13th. It's Saturday. Living in the end times as we are. And let's see here. We have a lot of stuff to talk about as usual. So let me go ahead and move the stuff over here so that I can see what I'm doing and go to my notes and let's start talking. So I see that there's some people there. How you doing, Sean? How you doing, Lewis? Good to see you guys. Mathis Tau Megalu and Alexandru. Wow, new guy. Thank you for joining. I really appreciate that. So, the name of this stream, of course, Republicans Lie, Americans Die. Kind of a loose theme for what I want to talk about today. So, as you guys know, we are living in the middle of a pandemic. I'm pretty sure you're all aware of that. Right. And, you're starting to see lots of states around the country start to open up, and things are getting a little bit better, not so much, it's not completely 100% back, obviously. But, for example, Texas and Alabama and a few other places are opening up completely. Here in California, kind of started opening a little bit. For example, in Los Angeles, they're allowing indoor dining now at 25% capacity, which is better than nothing. And, you're starting to see, I think, around the country, the response from our conservative friends is sort of like, you'd think they'd be happy, right? You'd think that they would like it. They would like the idea that things are getting a little bit back to normal, and instead you're seeing lots of sort of, I think, I guess sort of sour grapiness would be a good description from that. You're seeing things on Fox, from the various talking head people and from various conservatives, things like complaining about the CDC guidelines, questions to the the president's, the press secretary about, why is it that schools can open up 100%, but businesses can't, blah, blah, blah. Trying to see lots of gotcha stuff like that, and it sort of makes me think about the conservative Republican response to the pandemic that we've had over the last year, because it kind of is not a good idea to be reopening things at this point, right? We have a the difference is, of course, we have a vaccine now. We have several vaccines and millions of people being vaccinated, pretty much every day. It's something like the last I looked, it's something like more than 1 million people get vaccinated every single day, which is fantastic, right? That's great. If we can keep this pace up, then maybe by the summertime, things will be back to normal. In fact, that was one of the press releases from Biden was aiming for a July 4th, sort of celebration, kind of reopening the country sort of date, and if everything goes well, then maybe, people can get together with their families and stuff on the 4th of July and actually have, celebrate the return to normalcy. Even then, the CDC is basically saying small family groups. So the chances of us going to huge baseball games, seeing movies in a packed movie theater, right? going to Comic-Con International this July. Unfortunately, looks like that's all not going to happen. Which is pissing me off, because as I've mentioned several times on this stream and elsewhere, you know, I have free tickets to Comic-Con for the next 3 years, and then, of course, they cancel it. They cancel it as soon as I get to go as a professional. That disappears, which is bullshit, and I'm still butthurt over that. And I will be butthurt. I will be butthurt over that for the rest of my life. That's bullshit. But anyway, what are you gonna do? Fucking COVID-19. Um, so all of this, you're starting to see this sort of sour grapey kind of, response from our conservative friends, right? People like, Laura Ingraham, for example, saying the science is fake, blah, blah, blah. These are people, by the way, that, kind of cater to that sort of like alternative medicine, anti-vaxxer kind of crowd, which is funny because the anti-vaxxer thing, believe it or not, actually started as a left-wing sort of thing. That's where the anti-vaxxing, that movement came from the left to begin with. Years and years ago. It was part of the alternative medicine, movement of the, 80s and 90s, basically, right? And it was sort of like, funny where this all sort of started. It kind of starts with people who, people tend to not trust doctors, usually, especially when doctors tell them things they don't want to hear, right? So, doctor says, hey, you have this chronic illness. If you don't stop smoking, for example, you're going to die of cancer. If you don't stop, drinking beer every night, and eating ice cream, you're going to get diabetes and die, for example. Stuff like that. If you don't change your behavior, if you don't stop drinking while you're pregnant, your kid is going to, be born with developmental disabilities, that kind of thing. And people, tend to not like that kind of thing. They tend to not respond well when, the direct result of their health, like when their health is the direct result of their actions, right? And that's kind of where it all sort of came from. It came from, kind of started in even the 70s, really. I mean, there's always been mistrust of vaccines, but the alternative medicine thing kind of grew out of I guess hippiedom, right? It was already a thing when I was a kid, if I remember. There was always people who were anti, alternative medicine, people who are into things like, like power crystals and shit like that, and meditating and taking vitamins and holistic solutions. You know what I mean? That kind of thing. It's very much like spawned from the sort of New Age movement, And for a long, long time, that was mostly the domain of people with, people on the left, people with liberal political views, You don't really see a lot of, well, you didn't used to. You do now, right? But you didn't used to see a lot of hate and bigotry coming from the New Age movement, for example. Right. Exactly. Yeah, I was going to get to that, Sean, about the vaccines and autism. So that's kind of where it started to sort of shift. I think about maybe 15 years ago. So in the late 80s, I think there was this study about vaccines and autism, which has been debunked a million times and stuff like that. Right. And that kind of, that sort of got picked up by the sort of NWO New World Order, Jewish reptilian people crowd, right? That kind of got picked up by that. Like people like Alex Jones kind of latched on to that anti-vax, conspiracy theories. And it suddenly it wasn't that just, because to begin with, the idea was that vaccines were just unhealthy for you. They have mercury in the preservatives, things like that. You know what I mean? And it's like they give them to your baby too young, and there's mercury in it, and it causes, severe allergic reactions, and it can lead to autism and blah, 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 and all this other shit, right? And so it was like, it's unhealthy because it's like the main fallacy that alternative medicine types tend to take is that, we're kind of going off on a tangent here, but fuck it, this is interesting. Um, the Yeah, of course, I know, Lewis. Exactly. I know that you. I'm. I'm not saying that you cause. You said vaccines cause autism. I'm just saying, but um, that was where it began. It began with like it's unhealthy, right? And then they sort of picked it up. The Alex Jones crowd picked it up, you know, and turned it into something nefarious. And it wasn't like, oh, it's not just unhealthy anymore. It's something that they're doing to purposely, like, screw people up. It's purposely to give people autism, or purposely to, um, give you cancer, or to, like, sterilize you, shit like that. And it's funny how the argument changes over time, right? The earlier, it starts getting weird and fantastic, and then now the latest, iteration of that is that it's something that Bill Gates is like planning to inject into people, microchips. They're going to planning to inject microchips through vaccines or whatever, you know. So there's millions of different permutations of all this, yeah. But and it's just really funny how it's sort of kind of it's like now mainly the purview of right wing people. You know what I mean? You don't really see people on the left anymore complaining about autism. It's sort of split off, right? And you don't really see like anti-vaxxers on the left so much anymore. Sometimes you do through alternative medicine types still, but it's still very much become a part of the purview of far right-wing conspiracy theorists, Alex Jones and people of his ilk, QAnoners, that kind of thing, right? They're the ones now who are mainly behind the, we don't trust vaccines, blah, 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 right? And it's not for any logical reason. It's like, I even said myself in a stream not that long ago that I wasn't sure if I trusted a vaccine to come out of the Trump FDA, right? Because, and why did I say that? I said that because, right, I didn't trust the Trump FDA. I didn't trust it to get sufficient testing, I believe, and I still believe to this day, that if he was in charge, if he launched a vaccine, right, and say I really do think that he probably would have pushed it through, regardless if there was and covered up any evidence of side effects and shit like that, right? And it's, I don't think that's a bad suspicion to have. Of course, now it's like I trust him. I trust him because I'm not going to get one until, millions and millions of other people have already gotten it. And if any of them had those types of side effects, we probably would have heard about them by now. You know what I mean? So I think it's, it's been sufficiently tested in the field, and I will be the first to, to line up for it. But what I'm saying when I say that is that, even me, myself, I'm not immune to these types of emotional, I guess, what's the word? Emotional judgments. We're all human, right? We, and I admit, when I identify biases in myself, I try my best to understand that it's a bias. This is a bias. This is my emotional bias, my distrust of conservatives mixed with it causes emotional bias. And these are things that, I try, I think it's healthy to try to understand and overcome these things. And it's like, no, you should trust science. Right. So anyway, where am I going with all this? We kind of went off on a tangent here, let's see. The point I was getting to all of this, right, because I kind of went way off of my original topic, is that, these are people now, right? Now that we have sufficient vaccines, which I will get to what you just said there, Lewis, later about it mutating into several substrains. That's true, but, even that, it seems like it's still somewhat effective against those substrains, at least. Maybe not as effective as the original strain, but it seems like it's still kind of effective, so it's still better than not having anything, right? And so the fact is that we do have these vaccines, right? They do seem to be effective for the most part, right? And we might actually be coming to, you know, hopefully some sense of normalcy where you can walk around outside with a mask and not worry about dying within this year, right? 3-4 months, something like that. Probably definitely by this fall, it'll probably, if we get enough vaccines for everybody by, the goal they're saying is May 1st, right? If everybody has vaccines, enough vaccines for every single man, woman, and child in the country by May 1st, and we get all those and get them distributed to everybody, then maybe we can reopen and people can get jobs and we can go to the mall again and shit like that and go to Disneyland and blah 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 blah. And you know and you're starting to see from the conservatives, they're kind of freaking out about it. First off, they're freaking out. And why are they freaking out about this? They're freaking out over the idea that we may reopen and Joe Biden is going to get the credit for it. That's what it is. Okay. And it's the pettiest, most fucking ridiculous, like, horseshit reason ever to be in opposition of anything. You know what I mean? It's sort of like this. It's sort of like, hey, a guy you don't like. Let's say you have a bully, a neighborhood bully, right? And the bully beats the crap out of this kid every single day, right? And then that kid, after they grow up, goes off and becomes a multi-billionaire. And then, like, goes to his old neighborhood and gives everyone in his neighborhood $1 million, including the bully that picked on him every fucking day. And then the bully's pissed off now, even though he's getting $1 million, he still talks shit about the guy because he doesn't like him. Because it's like, kind of showed him up there a little bit. That's what it kind of reminds me of. It's like, hey, fuckers, this is a good thing. You assholes should be happy, that we're going to be able to go back to normal. You're not the bully, Sean. No, you're not. Right. But you get my idea. It's like, you get what I'm saying. It's like, dude, we're doing something positive. We're doing something positive that's good for people, right? And they're just taking every opportunity they can to shit all over it. Number one, because they don't want to admit that, they don't want to. I think it shows a couple of things. It shows a couple of things. All right. Shows, number one, that they don't want to admit that, okay, the opposition managed to get shit done when we didn't. Right. And it's because it shows how bad their leadership was. Right. It shows how bad their leadership was. So, this is now there's lots of factors to these things. Okay. Like, for example, Joe Biden becomes president, the number of infections suddenly shoots way down. The number of deaths starts decreasing, right? The number of vaccines, the number of people getting vaccinated go way up. And it's like, it's only, March 13th? So it hasn't even been 3 months yet. How have we been able to accomplish all of these things within 3 months? Well, obviously, this is not all Joe Biden, right? It's not like Joe Biden is magic, and then he shows up and just waves his magic Harry Potter wand and all this shit happens. No. And there's lots of different reasons. It's like, okay, yeah, infections were really high when he took over because of Christmas. It was January. So, people were, people just got finished with the holidays and they were just all out in big groups what you weren't supposed to be fucking doing and blah, blah, blah. That's one reason why they're really high. And then, of course, they start to go down afterwards, right? So that's one reason. So it's not like all of it. It's not like he just shows up and then suddenly, like, the shit goes away. But I think, you can make a very good argument that when you have someone in there who takes this shit seriously, and, when you actually have someone who's like a semi-decent, halfway decent leader, who, like, can get shit done, right? You get results, right? Why were they able to accomplish this so fast? It's, because the person in charge of it before was someone, was fucking Donald Trump's son-in-law. Okay? That's why. Why have we got so many people vaccinated? What was that? 100, what did they say? Something like 70 million, 75 million people vaccinated in like 3 months, right? How are they able to do that so fucking quick? It's because they actually put some effort into it. Okay, it's because a guy, the guy before was a fucking real estate scam artist person who had no business being there, and the only reason that he was in charge is because of fucking nepotism. You notice that none of Joe Biden's children are in his administration now. You notice that? You notice his son is not running anything, right? His wife is not running anything. His cousins, right. Wait, what's up with Ron Klain? What is he? Is he like is he related to him? I don't know, whatever. You know what I mean? Like, you notice that? You notice it's not like he's not treating it like a family business. You know what I mean? And that's that's what happens. That's what happens when you actually get people that, and I'm not even saying that they're the best at what they do, you know. I'm not saying that they're like, super awesome leaders or whatever. But it's like they're at least trying to fucking do the job. They're at least putting some effort into it. You know, they're not like, like when the vaccine rolled out last year. A vaccine in I think it was October, right? There was no plan. It was just sort of like, okay, states, go do it. That's what Trump and Jared Kushner's plan was for vaccines. It was like, okay, this is the state's responsibility. Bye bye, see ya. And they just left it to the state, and that was it. No, no funding, no fucking like. In fact, a story came out the other day where they actually tried to reduce funding to the states for a vaccine rollout. Believe it or not, you know, they did. There was no national plan, and it turned out that they didn't order enough vaccines for for everybody in the first place, and that was another reason why. Like, it was Donald Trump's goal to get 20 million people vaccinated before he left office, right? He had 3 months. He couldn't even get 20 million people vaccinated. Didn't happen, right? Less than 3 months, we have 75 million people. It's like, this is the difference. This is the difference when you have someone that actually knows what they're doing or is at least halfway fucking competent, right? And it just shows that, because what did, if it kind of shows that if we had this competent leadership there from the beginning, maybe we wouldn't have 600,000 people dead already. Like, how many people are dead now? Let's just go in here. Let's take a quick look. Coronavirus deaths, right? See, excuse me. The cool thing about Google is that it'll just tell you straight up. All you got to do is just Google this in, and it'll just give it to you right away. 532,000 for the entire, the entire country, right? That's not good. That's pretty bad. Okay. Where was it at when he took over? Right. Let's just take Showall. Okay. He took over right around here, January 21st, right? The average deaths, so what, it was 3,000 a day. Kind of kept up a little bit, and now you notice it's sort of trending down here. Kept up for about a month, So, what do you think? We're now here. It's see how fast is it's like as soon as like they take over, as soon as they start getting shit going, suddenly those deaths start trending downwards. I don't think it's a coincidence. I think you can attribute some of that to, of course, the holidays being over, and people, that big spike was because of Christmas and New Year's and all that. And you can attribute some of that to the holidays being over and people not being in large groups, but I also think that a lot of that has to do with just leadership that is actually taking it fucking seriously. And I really do believe that if we would have had that same leadership, right, a year ago, we wouldn't, we wouldn't have 532,000 people dead now, I mean, even half of that would have been better, right? And it's kind of hard to justify that. It's hard to justify that when you see other countries, right? Like New Zealand, like Australia, like practically every other country, out there, right? In Europe and everywhere, even countries in Europe where they completely fucked it up. I mean, and here's the pattern though. Another pattern is like those countries that have a large number of deaths, a large number of infections, right? They're kind of led by very bad authoritarian leaders. Brazil, for example, kind of has a Trumpian sort of authoritarian leader, Bolsonaro, right, in charge in Brazil. Turkey, Erdogan, right, has a very large number of deaths and infections, right? You're seeing that. The Philippines with fucking whatever that fucking guy's name, Duarte, right? Massively, like, huge number of infections there. And it just kind of shows that's sort of the pattern. It's like those countries that have authoritarian right-wing governments, have a large number of deaths and large number of infections and a very poor response, right? And you kind of almost see it here in the States, on a state-by-state basis. It's like lots of red states in the South and everything, when all of this started, back in the day, were very like, I remember, remember all the memes that came out about how like, oh, this is, this is the result of liberals and all this other shit, and they can't keep people safe and blah, blah, blah. And it's like, oh, look, Kentucky only has, one infection and New York has 40,000. Remember all that shit? Didn't take that long until those numbers started to crawl back up. You know what I mean? As soon as it started hitting the South, and now you can go to like Alabama and you can go to Florida, and they have numbers that are not that far away from New York and California now, right? And it's just like now it's like, oh, okay, now we're seeing that while infection rates have slowed down in California and New York and like Delaware and places like that, they're at a nice steady pace. And all of those red states, all of those states where they're like telling you not to wear masks and they want to open up completely, like Texas. I noticed you just mentioned that there, Sean. Texas wants to open up completely, no restrictions whatsoever, everything at 100%. And it's like, okay, well, watch what happens. At this point, it's sort of like, it's sort of like you kind of get what you deserve at this point. It's been a year. Everybody knows what this is all about. Everybody knows, like, how infectious it is, how deadly it is. There's no ambiguity anymore. Like back in the beginning when they were telling us, when the Trump people and the conservatives were telling us it's just another flu. Oh, it'll be over with in 2 weeks. Oh, it'll be over with in 6 weeks. Oh, we have to lock down for 8 weeks. Blah 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 blah. It's just it'll be over with. Oh, and they were telling us to, use UV lights to like fucking flood your room to kill it, and inject fucking hydroxy fucking chloroquine or whatever. They were telling us all of this shit, and it's like it's all a hoax. Blah 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 blah. Well, it's a hoax that's lasted a year and killed 500,000 people. Yeah, okay. Everybody fucking knows what they have to do to not catch this, right? And if people in fucking Texas are so fucking stupid that they're just gonna like open up, even if the governor says you can do it, if you're just gonna do it, if you're just gonna be like, okay, fine, no restrictions whatsoever, it's kind of your fault at that point. And yeah, I think you are right, Sean. I think Texas will fuck it up. I think what's going to happen is that it's going to get under control in other states, and in Texas is going to be like one of those holdouts where like people will still be in lockdowns. It won't be long until they have to there'll be another giant outbreak and they'll have to fucking like shut everything down again while you're in like other states like fucking, Missouri or whatever, Michigan, Missouri, California, whatever, where it'll be under control and people will be able to go to the movies and see Godzilla vs. King Kong, which looks fucking awesome. I don't know, have you guys seen that preview? Looks awesome. Anyway, so my point to all this is that, if we didn't have those people lying to us from the beginning, right? If we would have had nice, decent leadership instead of people who lied, to make themselves look good, and who tried to bend this, towards to profit from it politically and monetarily, right? 500,000 people would not have died. Some people would have, yes, right? I think it probably would have been a half or even a third of that amount. I mean, there's no way to say for sure, right, how many people would still be alive today, but it would be more people. More people would still be alive today. There's no doubt in my mind about that. And, it's not, it's kind of, this is the pattern. This is the pattern that we see every time there's a disaster and conservatives are in charge. When Republicans are in charge, when conservatives are in charge, every time there's a disaster, every time there's a flood or a fire or, something like that, a terrorist attack, right? And I remember thinking, I made several dozen videos about this all throughout the Trump years, right? About, what's going to happen. Like, imagine if there was a 9/11 type event during the Trump year, right? Imagine that. Imagine if, say, for example, there was a huge terrorist attack in 2015, or not 2015, 20 because that wasn't Trump year, sorry, 2017. Imagine that there was a giant terrorist attack. Let's say they blew up Trump Tower, right, or something like that. What do you think would have happened? If there was, what do you think the backlash would have been about if there was a 9/11? How many wars do you think we would be in now? Like 9, 10 different wars at this point? Like, do you really, I mean, it would be kind of the nightmare scenario. Trump's response would have been to get more people killed. Right? And it wouldn't matter who it was. Let's say that, it wasn't even Middle Eastern terrorism that caused it. Let's say there was a terrorist attack and it was like the Proud Boys, right? What do you think would have happened? I mean, first off, I think they would be probably rounding up, leftists in the streets at this point. I think it would have been like, oh, they would have blamed it on Antifa, and we would have seen like, fucking people basically going door to door, getting dragged out of their houses. Seriously, I'm not even kidding. It's all the excuse they would have needed to come down extremely hard, crack down on dissent, right, and possibly cancel the fucking election. I really think that would have happened. I really think that would have happened if we would have had a 9/11, during the Trump years. I think that would have energized them, their base enough, and given them enough excuse to just go all the way full authoritarian. Right? And it kind of shows, I mean, even like 9/11 itself shows what happens when we have bad leadership during crisis, right? George W. Bush was not a good leader, right? He probably made the biggest blunder in American history there by invading Iraq, when they really had nothing to do with the terrorist attack. And it's like, it was an abuse of power, using a terrorist attack as an excuse. I can only imagine what the Trump people would have done with that same opportunity. And it's not like that will be the last time. There will be more terrorist attacks. There will be more disasters. We saw, for example, how did the Trump people handle the hurricane that hit Puerto Rico? We saw how badly they handled that. Parts of Puerto Rico that didn't have electricity for a year after that. These are American citizens. That's the thing and it's just sort of like, it really appalled me about how quickly people forgot about that during, how quickly that it was in the news for a week, and then that's it, gone, the end. Okay, well, fuck Puerto Rico. It's like, it really appalled me It's like these are not, it's not like this is some foreign country 1,000 miles away. These are American citizens here. They have the same rights as anybody else in this country, and they didn't get the help that they needed. And they didn't get it because of bad leadership, right? Do you really think, like, for example, let's say Obama or Clinton or Joe Biden, if they were in charge when, the hurricane hit Puerto Rico, do you think there wouldn't be electricity in parts of that country for a year later? Right? Do you think that, do you think Joe Biden, for example, would have just gotten into a Twitter war with the governor of Puerto Rico instead of actually sending the aid that they needed? Because that's that blows me fucking away. That it's like, here's our fucking president, when there's people who are suffering and dying, who don't have electricity, don't have clean fucking water, and he's sitting here insulting fucking the governor of the country, the governor of the country. It's not even a president, because it's like they're a territory of the United States. It's not like they're a foreign country, right? Insulting the governor, getting into a Twitter war with the fucking governor here. It's like, and then people here just completely, it was like it was nothing. It's like, oh, well, there's Donald Trump being Trump, being he's a rogue, he cuts against the grain and he says the things I really think, right? He doesn't have a filter. And it's like, what the fuck, dude? Yeah, that blew me away. That absolutely blew me away, And I don't know. So that's why I named this stream Republicans Lie, People Die. Because it's happening right now. It's happening right now. People that, getting back to this vaccine and the pandemic, right now, the Republicans are lying about the vaccine. They're lying about the science. They're lying about the science behind the CDC guidelines, right? Trying to convince people, trying to scare people and convince people not to take it, right? So already a very large number of Trump supporters, something like 75% of Trump supporters or something, I have to look it up, have already expressed that they will not take this vaccine. And that is going to result in dead people, right? This rhetoric that you're seeing from people like Laura Ingraham, that you're seeing from like Fox News and conservative pundits, where they're trying to lessen the accomplishments made in the last 3 months for political reasons, right? Because they don't want people, because that's why they're doing it for political reasons. They're doing it because they don't want people to like Democrats. That's the entire reason why, right? And the side effect of this is that, somebody out there, some people, some group of, some segment of the population is going to buy this shit, and they're going to not get a vaccine specifically because Laura Ingraham or John, or some other fucking dumbass talking head pundit told them not to, and they're going to get COVID-19 and they're going to fucking get sick and die. And that's exactly what's going to happen. This is the result of when, lies go unchecked, from mass media figures, from politicians. When politicians are allowed to lie, this is what happens. People end up dead. And it's kind of sickening. And it's like, there's no effective way to police that, beyond trying to shout it down, right? So what is the big thing that you're hearing now from the conservatives? The thing that they're all pissed off about now is fucking cancel culture. You notice that over the last month or so, and it's why are they? First off, the first reason they're all into cancer culture. They're all kind of congregating about these dumbass fucking culture war things that nobody really gives a fuck about. Why are they all focusing on that? Because they don't actually have anything really else to complain about, right? They can't really complain about policy because they don't have policies, and they're seeing things like, for example, they just passed the stimulus bill, and they can't complain about the stimulus bill because Donald Trump just passed a stimulus bill that had essentially all the same shit in it, and this one is actually better than that one because it's giving people more money, right? And and they can't complain about the content of it because the alternative that they put forward, the Senate skinny bills that they gave didn't give people shit. The ones that Mitch McConnell proposed, that the skinny bills, if you remember, the $600 billion bills that gave people no stimulus checks and was all just tax breaks to the fucking corporations, right? So they can't complain about that shit. So it's like, okay, they can't complain about, you know, so that's why they're making up stuff about, they're putting up forward these stories about fucking Dr. Seuss and Mr. Potato Head and Joe Biden's dog. Have you seen this? There's a lot of chatter I find in right wing channels about Joe Biden's dog. Apparently he bit somebody. Yeah, whatever. All right. Okay, the dog bit somebody, whatever. And that's like, there's like 15 billion posts and shit all over Twitter and Facebook about how Joe Biden abused his dog. And it's like, how the fuck did he abuse this fucking dog? And I don't know. Bullshit. His dog is not abused. All right. Yeah, okay, the dog bit somebody, but that's what, they're dogs. Dogs bite people. What the fuck? Did he fucking murder someone? No. Did he give somebody rabies? No. I mean, did he even draw blood? I don't know. I didn't even read the story. And besides the fact, who fucking cares? All right, who cares about Joe Biden's dog? What about the fucking stimulus checks that we should have got 3 months ago, and the fact that they're like lower than they said they were going to be because of fucking conservatives made them that way. Let's talk about shit that matters. I don't know. It's just funny how fast they how they try to distract people. When there's people out there who are like, we're finally seeing this ray of hope after a year of like depression and death. And the best thing that instead of celebrating and trying to get people out there to get the fucking vaccine, right? Instead of helping people, they're making up shit about Joe Biden's dog and fucking Dr. Seuss. It's ridiculous. It's going to result in people's deaths. So, anyway, that was kind of my long 42-minute opening there. Let me get some water. Oy, oy, oy. Thank you all for joining, by the way, and thank you for listening to my crazy rants. I will get to your comments here, so just comment away, and I will read them, of course, as always, at the end. So there's a few things I wanted to talk about. Let's see. Some stuff that is trending out there. Super straight. You guys heard about this? What the fuck is super straight? Right. It is something, apparently, it's some shit that started on TikTok. I do not have a TikTok account. I am too old for it. I don't see the value in making a 10-minute video unless it's like a joke or a skit or something. 10 minute, not even, what are they like? They're not even 10 minutes, right? They're like fucking 30 seconds or some shit like that. So I guess it's funny. People make funny TikToks or whatever. That's cool. It's not really my thing. I don't know. Maybe I'll make one eventually because that's where all the kids are doing and blah, blah, blah. And I gotta try to stay relevant or whatever. But, I don't care about TikTok, but apparently that's where this shit started. Somebody made some fucking thing claiming that, super straight is my orientation, right? Which, that doesn't really make any sense to begin with. How can you be more than straight? I thought straight is you enjoy, sex with opposite genders, right? Members of the opposite sex. Is that what straight is? So how can you be more than straight? I guess that it doesn't make any sense. It seems to be a very much a just another way to try to disguise homophobia and especially transphobia is what super straight seems to be. Seems like what it is that, people are, I guess the idea is like, okay, if you accept the fact that a trans woman is a real woman, then if you're super straight, you reject that for whatever reason, which is bullshit and bigoted and short-sighted and ridiculous, right? First off, nobody has to justify who they're attracted to. Okay. Let's just get that out right there. You don't have to justify whoever you're attracted to. And that means for any reason. Okay? Nobody has a right to sit here and tell you that you're a bigot if you don't like people with XYZ traits, sexually. No. That's not true at all. You don't have to justify that, you know. Um, some people are just attracted to whatever. Me myself, I kind of like tall girls. My wife is actually a little bit taller than me. I kind of like that. You know, I like that sort of long legs and the idea that my wife could kick my ass if she wanted to. Kind of nice. I think it's short-sighted to cut people out because of intrinsic traits they may have, like their race, for example. I think if you just immediately don't consider someone as a potential partner because of their race, then you're an idiot and you don't know what you're missing. I had a black girlfriend once. She was dude, her shit was so big. Anyway, it was very nice. I'm not going to be sexist in this stream here. But let's just say that it was very nice. It was very nice. And I think I am better off for having met her. Of course, this was like 20 years ago. But I'm better off for having met her, and even though things didn't work out and whatever, blah 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 blah, we had a great time. And I'm sure if I haven't seen her in like God, how long has it been? I haven't seen her in like at least 12 years, but if I were to run into her again, I'm pretty sure we'd still be cool with each other, blah blah blah. And it's like, you limit yourself if you purposely, if you're searching for a certain body type and a certain skin color and all of that stuff, you're limiting yourself there, and really it's kind of like, I think, to your detriment. But that being said, of course, they're just things people are attracted to for whatever reason. And, sometimes you don't even know why. So there's really nothing wrong, I think, with wanting to date a person that fits certain criteria. And that's fine, right? There's a difference between that and going on social media and proclaiming these things as some... First off, trying to claim that it's a sexual orientation. That's stupid. That's stupid and dumb. And proclaiming these things as part of like your identity, that's different. It's one thing to just be attracted to certain traits. It's another thing to make a fucking movement out of it and use it to, basically spread bigotry and hate. Because that's the thing. If they were to just to be like, okay, I'm super straight, I'm not attracted to trans people. Okay, that's bullshit, that's shitty, but you could in some way have some twisted ass logic to justify that, I guess, right? But that's not what they're doing. What they're doing is they're going on and they're basically just being... It's just another way to hide transphobia. And so what these people are doing is they're going on and they're doxing people, doxing trans people, dropping dead names and stuff. They're harassing trans people. And what is really fucked up, I think, this is the worst, is that they're outing trans people without their, consent. And that's really kind of fucked up, Like outing a gay person and a trans person, I guess they're not the same thing, obviously, but, this is sort of similar, right? Outing someone who's either gay or trans or whatever without their consent can really fuck up their lives, like, really bad. Right? Imagine you live in a town somewhere in the Midwest, right? And let's say you're a gay person, right? And you live in the Midwest somewhere, and your town only has 5,000 people in it. That's not a lot of people, right? I mean, not really. I mean, shit, my fucking neighborhood probably has more than 5,000 people in it. Right? So, not very big. And, there may only be, a handful of other gay people in the entire fucking town. Right? Or whatever. Or there might be, like, no gay people that you know of in the town. And the thing about small towns, if any of you guys have ever lived in one, is that everybody knows everybody's business. That's the whole point. That's just what happens when you live in a small town, is that just, people fucking gossip, right? Because everybody knows everyone. And somebody gets outed like that, it'll be around just, instantly, right? The next day, every single person will know, and not all those people might not be very accepting. And that has the potential to really, like, screw up somebody's life bad, right? Ruin friendships and families and stuff like that. Really fucked up. And it's like, that's why they do it. This is why, like, outing people and doxing people and shit like that is such a powerful weapon. And it kind of works the other way, too. If you out somebody as a white supremacist, for example, it can really fuck their lives up also, In my case, I don't really see anything wrong with that, because it's not like, being a white supremacist is a something you're born with. It's a choice. And, I really think it's worth it for people to know that if you're working with or in a relationship with a hateful bigot, sack of human garbage, I don't see anything wrong with that at all. I think it's really, like, screwed up, though, if you're just, like, getting some random, like, person who's trans or something and then outing them because you're a fucking hateful asshole. It's then the point I'm making with that is that it's a weapon, and just like any weapon, right? It's not what you do. It's not what it does. It's who you do it to, right? And whether or not it's justified. We all know guns shoot people. The debate is over, was this shooting justified, for example? It's like, well, we all know that outing people and doxing people, we all know what that does. Is it justified? Well, I think it's justified when it comes to, say, outing a white supremacist business owner. I think that's fucking justified. I'll stand by that, and I don't see any, and I will say also that I think it's not justified to just out a random gay person or a trans person, and I don't see any contradiction in that at all, because those two things are not equal. So this is what we're seeing anyway, getting back to Super Straight. This is what we're seeing with these guys. It's just basically another way to hide this, an anti-trans, anti-gay hate movement. Seems to focus more on anti-trans stuff, which is fucked up, because these are people that kind of get the shittiest end of the stick. It's only been very, very recently that trans rights have even become something that we talk about. Only over the last, 3 or 4 years that people even talk. I mean, go back to, 2012? No one even, it was like trans rights weren't even on the radar back then. It was one of those things that it was still okay to make fun of, and you'd see comedians and shit and like jokes in movies, that kind of thing. You'd have like the trans cross-dresser or something stock character in a movie, and it was cool to make fun of them or whatever. And it's only very, very recently, like within like the last 5 years, that's even been a thing that people even considered like bigotry. You know what I mean? Like, seriously, I think I don't know. I think that's great. Actually, it's great that it's like, yeah, okay, this is an entire segment of the population that have just been ignored until now. Now and it's like, for them, it's kind of at the beginning of the acceptance phase. Like for example, I would say like back in the 90s and the aughts, right? It was sort of, this is where gay people were at. Like back in the 80s and 90s, it was like you'd see gay characters in a movie, and they would just be these stock characters that people would make fun of, and they would like, stuff like that. And then kind of right around turn of the century there, 2000, a little bit past that, you start seeing more people talking about gay rights, things like that. You start seeing more like better representations of gay characters in media, that kind of thing. And even people, of course, people would still say today that it's not 100%, because it isn't. It's still not 100%. There's still ways to go. But it's definitely better than it was back then, than 20, 15, 20 years ago. And then, all of a sudden it's like gay marriage is legal, right? Gay people start, they start getting those rights that they wanted. They start, because before it was like, oh, we'll just have a separate but equal thing. You remember domestic partnerships. Oh yeah, well, it'll be marriage, except we'll call it something else than marriage. It'll be separate but equal, right? That's what it was. And then yeah, right around about 10 years ago or so, suddenly that all started changing. Gay marriage becomes a thing, and gay people are suddenly allowed to, like, adopt children, although that's still not a thing nationwide yet, and that's a tragedy. But some states, for example, California, will allow gay people to adopt children now, and then gay people can now serve in the military. That was a thing they've been trying to get for years and years and years. And it's like, that's kind of what happened, like the movement sort of accomplished some goals. And right now I think we're seeing trans rights are kind of where the gay rights were in like 2000 or maybe like the 90s. It's still very much, it's still very much a thing that is not on a lot of people's radar. And a lot of people don't even consider it bigotry to make fun of a trans person, And that's something that we need to change. And it's like, this is kind of a backlash. Getting back to fucking Super Straight, this is a backlash against that. Because, for the first time ever, we're starting to see trans people assert these rights. That's the thing about rights, is that no one's going to give them to you, And every time we've seen rights be extended to another segment of the population, those people, it was not because a law that got passed out of the goodness of somebody's heart, or it wasn't because a benevolent leader said, you know what, I think we need to extend, let's give these people the right to vote, blah blah blah. It was never like that. It's always the people that are affected take the rights, they force them, so kind of like the civil rights movement, right? There were no politician sat down and led the effort to help black people get the right to vote or to end segregation. No politician did that, right? It was a movement. It was a movement of people who forced it to happen, through boycotts, right? Through protests, through boycotts, through getting the message out in the media. That's another thing that, when it comes to the civil rights movement, that's another thing that can't be underestimated, was the effect of media on the civil rights movement. And, right, depiction of black characters in movies and books and things like that. That actually really helped the civil rights movement too. And debate on there would be debates on national television about this kind of thing. Like, we don't even have shit like that anymore. You know what I mean? Like, there used to be, like, for example, back in the 50s and 60s and shit, when we're talking about civil rights, they would have like debate TV shows where people would go on and they would debate these issues, because it was part of the fairness doctrine that you had to have both sides, like, represented and stuff. And it was like there was a lot more in the way of healthy civil discourse than what we see today. You don't see shit like that today. Today it's very polarized. Today it's like, people watch Fox and that's all they watch. Or they watch fucking MSNBC and that's all they watch. And then they go on Twitter and they go on Facebook and the algorithm feeds them the shit that they want to see. And they don't get exposed to the other side of the argument very much. And it's like, these times in the past when things were a lot more, open, the information was a lot more presented, I guess, a lot more fairly, you kind of notice that the side that leads towards more freedom for people, more rights for people, tended to win. Even during back then, even back in the 50s and the 60s, when we lived in a much more polarized, um, society where things like racism and shit like that was not, you know, um, I guess not as I don't know, not looked down upon as much as it is today. People were much more willing to express those attitudes than they were today. You know, and it's like even then, it's like you get these people up and you get these ideas, people debating these ideas. Even way back then in that environment, they still lost, and it's like, you know. Anyway, kind of went off on a tangent there. I do want to talk about a little bit more about this super straight shit. You know, one more thing I want to mention about it. You notice the initials for super straight. You know, SS, right? That's not a coincidence. You know, not a coincidence at all. In fact, that's most likely why it's called super straight and not something like mega straight or straight plus or some shit like that. You know, just another way for the alt-right to sneak in their dog whistles to people, you know. So now people go on and just a way, and this is something that we actually kind of saw last week. We saw some people who didn't know what super straight was and where it came from and who was behind it, kind of promoting it on social media and falling for the scam. And it's like, you know, always be suspicious when you see these types of social, I guess I wouldn't even call this a movement, but when you see these types of memes come out from a right-wing perspective, always be suspicious about, what's the hidden meaning behind this? What's the dog whistle that they're sneaking in there? You know what I mean? Like, and it's just like, okay, yeah, now they just got millions of people to tweet out SS, right, all over the place, and the guys on 4chan and shit are just laughing their asses off, right, at this kind of thing. It's like, man, you guys, you gotta be like diligent about this sort of stuff. You end up becoming like a fucking tool for the alt-right, spreading their propaganda and not even fucking realizing it. I don't know. Just another example of conservatives lying and people dying. That's the shitty part, is that somebody out there, like, here's the thing, right? You always say, like, does anybody ever get fooled by this stuff? Yes, people do. Someone out there is going to, unironically believe super straight is a real thing, and that's really, it's really their orientation, blah 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 blah, and then it'll end up becoming a gateway into the alt-right for one of them. It'll happen to how many people, who knows, but somebody. Right, some people, it'll fucking happen, and it's just another way that they fucking lie to spread their propaganda. So that was funny shit. Let's see, what time is it? God, today's stream passing fast. It's already been an hour. I need some hang on, I need to drink something here because my mouth is all dry. Let's see, what else happened in the news here? Meghan Markle and the royal family. That's in the news. Do you give a shit about the royal family? I kind of don't. I kind of really don't care about the royal family or anything that happens to them usually, because I am not British, and even if I was British, I would still think the royal family was full of shit, because, what the fuck are they there for now? I mean, what do? They don't do anything, right? Except, like, suck off people's tax dollars. I mean, I don't know. I guess maybe they run charities or some shit, whatever. Seems to me the idea of kings and queens are very antiquated and, an idea that we should have left behind hundreds of years ago. But I guess for a lot of British people, the royal family is seen as sort of a tradition and, blah, blah, blah. And apparently they're just figureheads now anyway, right? So that's fine. But why are they in the news? Because there was, this is more culture war shit. There was an interview that Oprah had with Meghan Markle, who was married to Prince Harry. And apparently Meghan Markle is half black. I didn't know that. Am I pronouncing her name right? I think I am. Let me just make sure. I would feel really dumb. Yeah, Meghan Markle, Duchess of Sussex. Okay. Just want to make sure that I was pronouncing her name correctly, because, I don't know. Apparently she's half black. I didn't even know it. If you look at her, she doesn't look like, she looks like she's maybe like Italian. Right? So, I guess she's half black. That's kind of cool. I had no idea. Anyway, I just thought she was like, I thought maybe she might have been like Latina, or something like that. Or, maybe just darker skin, or maybe had an ancestor who was black a few years ago. I don't know. But anyway, apparently there's a little bit of racism coming out of the royal family and their baby. They said that, their son was not, first off, not going to get any, protection, bodyguards, right? Which is fucked up, because the kid will still be a target, even if they're not, even if they don't have anything to do with the actual royal family themselves, if they're not involved or whatever, and the kid's not in line for the throne or whatnot, which I don't really know if he is or what. Apparently, I guess he's not really in line for the throne. I don't know. I don't really know that, and I don't care, to be honest. But still, they are public figures, and you would think at least they would provide some kind of security for them. It's still a target that someone might want to kidnap or murder, and even if it's not for a political reason, some fucking crazy psychopath might just go nuts one day and decide that the kid is the Antichrist or whatever. Who the fuck knows? Who knows? And so that's kind of jacked up. They're going to have to pay for their own security. And then apparently someone in the royal family expressed concerns about their baby's skin color. And this is causing lots of, backlash and rending of clothes and gnashing of teeth from conservatives. Apparently, Piers Morgan really went nuts over this and actually quit, not over this, but a few days later, quit his fucking job or whatever live on the air. That was fucking cringy and humiliating, because fuck Piers Morgan. And you're seeing the same thing, lots of the pundits here, Ben Shapiro, for example, said that he didn't believe her and all this other stuff. And, you saw also from Tucker Carlson, bitching and moaning, and how can they do this? How could they betray the, royal family? How can Meghan do this to this family that gave her so much? Blah, 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 blah. One thing you'll notice here is that, first off, does that sound like, does that sound like implausible to anybody out there that the British royal family would be racist? Sounds completely plausible to me. 100%. I believe that 100%. All right. I mean, you can't get more, elitist than a fucking royal family. That's that's the most elitist thing, literally the most elitist thing in the fucking world is a royal family, right? You got to remember, for centuries, right? Not just their, they come from a line of people that for centuries thought that just common folk around them were literally less than, you know, like a different breed of human being than them. It wasn't just like, you hear things about blue bloods, right? Where do you think that term blue blood came from? You know, it wasn't just that, commoners were like, beneath them. It's like they were like literally not part of the same like race, you know, that they were part of the even like borderline same species, you know. And it's been a thing for centuries. People of royal heritage were not supposed to interbreed with common folk, and if they ever did, with commoners. Think about even that word, commoners. It's like you just get out of here, you fucking commoner. You know what I mean? Like, it's like saying like people are like Pokemon cards. Oh, this one's common. Fuck that one. This one over here is like the super rare elite. Yeah, it's worth all this money, but this other little fucking like Pikachu energy card, yeah, whatever. That's common card. Fuck that card. That's what it sounds like to me. And so these are people for like literally for literal generations. Like hundreds and hundreds of years just looked down on normal people as something like less than them. I mean, is it any fucking wonder that there's this element of racism, right? Even today's, environment, right? These are the royal family now is a product of today's, the same environment that you and I are in. And does it even like surprise you today that, with all the discussions we have on race and how pretty much anybody with a brain should understand, that it's wrong to be racist, that they would still hold this idea? I completely believe it. I completely believe it 100%. They didn't identify who it was that, said this, right, to them. I'd be very surprised if it was the Queen herself. The Queen actually seems kind of cool from what I know about her, like philanthropist and shit. But then again, I don't really know. I don't really know any of the history of Queen Elizabeth or whatever. I know that, she seems like a decent person is what I'm saying. So I don't know. I mean, it's probably, I don't know, somebody, whoever the fuck is next in line for the throne. That's probably who it is. But I don't want to point fingers because I don't know anything about it. Just think that shit's hilarious, Anyway, it kind of goes to show just, how attitudes, the more things change, the more they stay the same, right? I mean, I don't know. You would think just anybody who's, it's the royal family, so they're just figureheads, but they're still kind of world leaders, kind of, sort of, they're still within that same class. And you'd think that they would have their finger on the pulse of that by now, of the way society has changed. And you also would have thought that they would, understand that this would come out one day. I mean, did they just think that this woman that they're ostracizing from their family would never say anything about it? Fuck, I'm surprised she didn't go on Twitter the next day and, like, be like, hey, they fucking asked about my baby's fucking skin color. Fuck these people. It's not like she's getting money from them. She isn't. They're not getting money from them, so fuck them. Like, really, what's the only reason why you would stay quiet about that? As if you were getting millions of dollars from them. That's the only fucking reason. Well, if they ain't giving you shit, and it seems like they're being assholes to them, fuck them. I'm surprised she didn't, like, tweet this shit the next fucking day. Like, I would have if I was her, because fuck these people. Give a fuck if they are, like, bro. She's an American. She's one of us. Right? Damn, Megan, don't put up with any of this shit. Fuck these people. Damn. Anyway, so, alright, adversary fandom. The royal family is a bunch of inbred. Some color would do them good. Yeah, exactly. Get rid of those Habsburg jaws and shit, right? What's the matter with some color in your family tree there, folks? Nothing. Okay. Let's see. So I did want to talk, we're at, 114 already? I should probably move on to the main event here, because by the time I'm done with all of the little side tangents and stories and things, we'll be at 2 hours. You guys think I should make this stream more than 2 hours? I don't know. If you think so, leave a comment. I mean, sometimes it hits about when we hit about 2 hours. I get that's when I start getting tired and have to go to the bathroom and shit. So, but if you guys think that if you would stay for more than 2 hours, and I don't know, maybe I can look into it. Right? Maybe we could do 2 streams a week or something. I don't know. So why did the main thing I wanted to talk about here is 2 things. First, we have our 1.9 trillion rescue plan that just got passed, right? Good news, you would think. This kind of ties into what we were talking about earlier in the stream. You would think that would be good news. People are going to get their $1,400 checks, right? What exactly is in it? Well, it's a little disappointing because a lot of people were thinking we were going to get $2,000, but we got $1,400, and that's bad optics, right? But I think what we're actually getting in the package will make up for that a little bit. It's bad optics that it's not a $2,000 check. And I can guarantee that during the next election, you're going to see commercials saying Biden lied and only gave you $1,400, not $2,000. Never mind the fact that $1,400 is more than the other previous checks combined. Never mind that fact. What did we get so far? We got one for like $1,200, and then another for like $1,600. $600. So this one is more than both of those. I guess not combined, but it's more than both of those, right? But it's the other things involved in this stimulus package as well. Lots of funding for various programs, especially relating to vaccinations, which is good. It keeps the additional $300 unemployment going. That's a little shitty because they had to reduce that thanks to Joe Manchin, by the way. So if you have any problem with the fact that some of these dollar amounts are a little lower, talk to Joe Manchin. Talk to the conservative Democrats. That Kristen Sinema, Joe Manchin. Those are the people that reduced these numbers, by the way. Let's see. But so we're getting the extra $300 per week for unemployment, which I can tell you from experience that is going to help a lot of people. The extra cash they gave last year in unemployment really fucking saved my ass. I can tell you that because I was unemployed for like half of last year. And they don't, they give you in California $450 a week, right? You can't fucking live off $450 a week. Okay. I wouldn't even, thanks to the extra money I got, I was able to make my mortgage every month. I was able to make that, and then my wife was able to pay for everything else, because she, my wife works too. And we were able to do that and not significantly delve into our savings, and I didn't end up losing all of my money, And when I eventually did get a job, we were in a good spot. And thanks to that extra $400. So even if it was $300, yeah, that's worse, but still, that's still going to help people. That still would have allowed me, even if I was getting $300, that would have allowed me to make my mortgage. And I would have been cool. And it's like, so that by itself makes this shit worth it, in my opinion, Other things that we're getting from this is, I think this is the biggest one, is that adult dependents will receive this money, which is something that you didn't get in previous stimulus rounds. So that means if you have, for example, an adult child, like, let's say you have a child, not an adult child. What did I mean? Sorry. Let's say you have an adult, well, I guess technically an adult child would be your child who's an adult, right? So I guess that still counts. But, you have let's say you have an adult, child that has severe autism and is unable to work or is severely disabled, right? Let's say you have a kid who's just, who's an adult now who's maybe like in their 20s and can't really work because they're paralyzed or severely developmentally disabled or autistic or something like that, Or let's even say, it doesn't have to be a child. It can be sometimes your parents can be an adult dependent. Your parents who are like 90 years old or something like that, right? And for whatever reason, they're like, infirm, right? Something like that. Or if you're adult, your parents are, maybe they got in an accident and they like brain damaged or something, and they just can't work for whatever reason. And you're their caregiver, and you're basically paying for them. You can claim them as an adult dependent. You know what I mean? So it's like, it's not always just your child who, for one reason or another, can't get a job. It's also sometimes it could be your parents. Sometimes it could be a sibling. Your younger brother or something, right? So there's lots of reasons why there could be, because this is the thing. This is when people read that and the conservatives see that adult dependence. What do they think? They think some neckbeard sitting in his fucking like mom's basement or whatever, spanking it to fucking furry porn all day and shit posting. That's what they think, and they're like, "Why is this kid getting money? He should get a job." It's like, no, it's not always like that. There are many, many situations where you could have an adult dependent, and they're not always your child. Sometimes they're your sibling, sometimes they're your parent. Sometimes it's just a family friend, somebody that you take care of, whatever reason, right? So, and you're just taking care of this person because they can't work for whatever reason. They have no arms and legs or something, whatever. You're like, they're disabled, they're in an iron lung. There's all kinds of different reasons why you could have this. And the fact that they're also going to get a $1,400 check, I think, is really going to help people too, right? This is going to be awesome, because that does more than just rescue people. You know what I mean? Like, that does more than just allow people to make their rent. The idea behind a stimulus package is that you want to stimulate the economy, right? You want to get money out there, so that people can, excuse me, people can get some money flowing in the economy and create some demand for goods and services, right? So it comes out to something like every dollar spent in stimulus results in $3 of economic activity. It comes out to something like that. I had an article here with an exact number. I'll have to dig it up and I'll post it later. Something around there. So we can look at, basically roughly $3 to $4 trillion of economic activity thanks to this, thanks to this plan, which is going to be very nice, and it's going to really help a lot of fucking people. So that's good. And then the last thing that we're going to go of significance, I mean, I'm leaving out a ton here, is that this is also going to give a tax credit to people with children. And so tax credit of $3,000 for children under the age of 17. And then if they're under the age of 6, you get $3,600. So that's kind of really, really good. That's way more. So this package, we're getting way more than we did in any of the previous two, which is fantastic because people fucking need it, So that means like a family of 4, right, will get $2,800 for 2 adults, right? And let's say the kids are 6 and 10, then they'll get an additional $6,600 in tax breaks, right? So that comes out to almost 10 grand for a family of 4. I mean, a little bit under that. It's around $8,000 or $9,000. That's fantastic. That's really good. That's really going to help some people. Now, let's say that only one of those people work right now and they're behind on their rent and all that other shit. That's going to allow them to pay their rent and have a little extra money left over. Maybe buy the kids some new shoes or something. You know what I'm saying? This is what we need. This is what we should have been doing last year. They should have passed something like this back in March or April of last year when the country went on lockdown and everybody lost their jobs and it became fucking impossible to get a job, right? This is what should have happened. They should have passed something. They should have had this kind of stimulus back then. And if they would have done that, it would have kind of cushioned that, maybe we might have had that economic downturn still, but it definitely would have supplied a lot of cushion for people. There would be less people behind on their rent right now. There'd be less people in fucking emergency mode about to get about to get fucking evicted and kicked out of their houses. Right, as soon as they as soon as they allow evictions again, there's going to be a massive crisis. And I'm hoping that now that Congress is going to be able to do something about that now. This gives me hope to see this sort of thing. Maybe some of those people now will be able to pay some of that back rent. And $10,000, that's not bad at all. And let's say if you owe 12 grand in back rent, that'll be a significant chunk of that, and that might actually save some people from being homeless. So, of course, it could always be more. That's the thing. You can always make the case that it should be more, and there's always going to be people that it won't save completely. But this is a very nice start, and it might even be enough to kind of I don't know, it's going to help millions of people. And apparently something like 16 million people will be raised out of poverty by this. And this is without the $15 minimum wage increase, which that by itself would be, that would probably, that would really do a lot to get rid of poverty. That would probably cut poverty in half in this country if we were to raise the minimum wage. So this is really good news. Any way that you look at it, even the fact that it is watered down, still, this is still kind of the most significant, transfer of wealth from the rich to the poor in a very long time. And I don't see anything wrong with looking at it like that. That's what it is. It's a transfer of wealth from the rich to the poor, We should be, because we're going to have to raise taxes in order to pay for this, right? Which is already on Biden's radar, And I have no problem with that whatsoever. They raise them on me. I don't give a fuck. Raise taxes. If it's going to shit like this is what taxes are for. This is taxes of, if it's going to help people, right? If tax money is going to help people, if it's going to help the economy, if it's going to save people from being homeless and save them from being kicked out of their houses, shit like that, raise them. That's what taxes should be there for. Instead we're spending taxes on bombing people in other countries and shit. It's no, man, I don't know. Tax increases are not all automatically bad, right? So what's happening, so this is what the Democrats did, right? They got this passed, right? We had all these debates over the last, 2 months, right? All this finagling going back and forth, right? Conservative Democrats standing in the way, finally getting them on board with this watered down version that still does a really good amount of, a really good amount of good things, I guess. I know that was kind of awkward, right? There was 0 Republicans who voted for this. 0. None of them at all. None in the House, 0. In the Senate, 0, right? They did everything they could to stop it and to go on the news and talk to their people and saying how it's a waste of money and how we don't need a stimulus. That was a thing that Mitch McConnell came out the other day and said, we don't need a stimulus package. Americans have money, blah, blah, blah. Right. They didn't do shit. They didn't contribute to this at all whatsoever. So what are they doing? What are the Republicans doing while the Democrats are giving people money and helping people to not be homeless, right? And giving normal, ordinary people tax breaks and not giant corporations, right? What are the Republicans doing? The Republicans want to try to repeal the estate tax. That's what they've been doing. So they passed a law, they proposed a bill in the Senate to repeal the estate tax. This is their economic stimulus to all of us. Get rid of the estate tax. The death tax is what they call it. Um, so the estate tax right now is 40%. Okay. So conceivably, if you're a super rich person, 40% of that, whatever money you leave to your kids, should be taxed and go to the government. Sounds like a lot, right? The thing that they don't tell you is that that doesn't kick in until your estate is over $11 million for individuals or $24 million for couples, right? So most rich people in the country who are millionaires do not have $11 million. Okay, or $24 million for a country. Most millionaires, because there are there's something like 5,000 millionaires in the country, right? Most of them have one or two, three, $4 million, something like that. They will not be affected by this at all, right? So this estate tax, as it is right now, affects 0.1% of all estates in the entire country. 0.1% of people will have to pay this estate tax. And keep in mind, this is 40% after $11 million, right? Let's say $11 million for individuals, 20, right? Let's just stick with that because it's 24 million for couples, but you don't have to say that every fucking time. So, let's say your daddy is super duper rich and owns buildings and is a former president, and he finally kicks the bucket because he eats too many like fucking cheeseburgers and got sick and injected some fucking fishbowl cleaner into his ass, instead of going to the doctor because, he knows better. And he finally kicks the bucket and now you get your inheritance. And let's say he has $1 billion. You get 11 million bucks and then 40% of what's left. So you will get $611 million, right? Out of the billion. This is what we're supposed to be concerned about. This is what they're concerned about, And that, it's like the priorities could not be more different. Why am I bringing this up? I'm bringing this up here because when you hear people talk about politics, even today, like when I post these, when I make these streams and I post them on Reddit, and I go to like left-leaning subreddits and things, and then people say shit like, well, the parties are both the same, because I talk about politics in these streams, and a lot of people on, various places, like for example Reddit, if you go to left-leaning subreddits, they don't really talk about politics very much. They talk about things like classism and like Marxism and like capitalism, the capitalism being bad, shit like that. They talk about that kind of thing. They don't really talk about, they also talk about social issues too. The representation in media, that kind of thing, right? They don't really talk about the meat and bones of politics very much. Very much. Politician A, politician B, what proposals are out there, what policies are being enacted, right? You don't really get a lot of discussion about that kind of thing in for example, I know in Reddit, for example, I can't really talk about, other leftist circles, but you don't really talk about that. And there's this sort of perception that both parties are the same, and it's not true. It's not true at all. And I focus on, my streams are about politics because I want to focus on the practical things which are affecting, the practical policies and application of policies, right? That actually affect real people's lives, It's great to talk about things like, say, Marxist theory or whatever, right? But how does that help somebody who's like freezing to death in Texas because, and now owes like a $10,000 power bill? How does that, how does it help him to talk about Marxist theory? Like it doesn't, in my opinion. It's like, okay, yeah, that's cool, and it doesn't mean you shouldn't talk about it, but at the same time, it's like this is something that's actually affecting a real person's life, And we should discuss these things. We should discuss, what's actually happening and the reasons behind them. And if you want to do it from a certain perspective, whatever. I mean, also the other fact is that I'm not a Marxist. I'm not a communist. I'm not a Marxist. I'm not even really a socialist, right? If more than anything, I'm not adverse to policies related to those theories being enacted, right? For example, I think a lot of socialist policies would be very, very beneficial to our country. Socialized medicine, for example, right? So it's not like I'm not like an anti fucking communist or some shit like that, but you know, I haven't I'm not 100% dedicated to the cause, and that seems to turn a lot of left-leaning people off sometimes in certain circles. So I'll post one of these streams up, and then people will come back to me and they'll be like, yeah, all the parties are the same. They're all corporatists. They all have the same masters. And it doesn't matter who you vote for because you get the same results. And it's like, no, that's not true. This is a perfect fucking example of how that's not true. One party who is in charge right now passes a $1.9 trillion stimulus, which is going to help people in this country, right now. It's going to help. It has a practical effect of getting people fed, of keeping people from being homeless, keeping people in their homes, right? Getting their children medicine, shit like that, right? The other side is passing, passing fucking estate tax shit, which will help literally the richest people in the entire country, right? That's the difference. So when you get, when you talk about, what difference is there, when you hear people saying shit like there's no difference between Republicans and Democrats, there's no difference between, they're all beholden to the same corporate masters, blah, blah, blah. Bullshit. Not true at all. And this is demonstrable evidence, this is evidence right here, of what their priorities are, So, anyway, that's why I wanted to bring that up, because it's like, I really think that a lot of I would say the liberal progressive not message but execution is really like stifled by that, and it's like, and the thing is, when people say that, it's like I understand why, because you get things like, for example, the Joe Bidens and the fucking Joe Manchins in the party, in the Democratic Party, for example, and the Kristen Sinemas, and there are conservative elements within the Democratic Party, and I could see why people see it, because they do things like, oh, see, like they lied about raising the minimum wage, for example, and that's that's a 100% justified criticism, right, of Democrats. Right, of, I guess you would say, I guess they're neoliberals or whatever, right? Or I don't even know if you would call them neoliberals, right? That's completely 100%, that's a justified criticism, and that's something that we should be talking about. But I think they're looking at it incorrectly. They're not understanding that these people are conservatives. They're conservatives too. And yeah, the things they want are not too different than the things that Mitch McConnell wants, for example, right? That's definitely true. But, which party is giving us, stimulus checks, right? And benefits that are going to add up to $10,000 for a family of four? And which one is trying to give people who have billions of dollars even more money when their kids die, when they die, which one is doing which? Let's not fool ourselves here. There's they're not the same. So anyway, let's see what else we want to talk about here. Some other things, what else? What are the other Republicans doing while Democrats are passing stimulus checks and keeping people out of poverty? Marjorie Taylor Greene is this is what she's doing. Let's give an update on her. So last time in our last stream, we talked about how she has been relieved of all of her, all of her committee assignments and stuff like that. So what does she do now? She shows up every day, every session, and she forces a vote on trying to adjourn Congress. That's what she does. Marjorie Taylor Greene shows up and says, we should adjourn. We should not do anything in this session. We should all go home. And it's starting to piss people off. And, the thing is that you're starting to see even even the Republicans are starting to revolt against that, because what it does is that they all have to come in and they all have to vote, and it's an unscheduled vote. And they all have to vote to continue working. And it's something they're going to lose anyway, because, there's more Democrats in the Senate, in the House, so they're going to lose it anyway. But she's forcing it as it's like a delaying tactic, right? So basically, Marjorie Taylor Greene is just trolling now, and that's what she's become. She's become like a professional fucking Congress troll, right? So while the Democrats are passing legislation to help people and give people money, Marjorie Taylor Greene is just trying to shut it all down because she's a fucking troll. And that's what she's doing. And Lauren Boebert is comparing Joe Biden's dogs to illegal immigrants on Twitter. That's what she's doing now. Right? So here is the... I'm not even going to bother opening this because it's beneath us, I think. But I will put it in the chat in case you guys want to check it out. That's what she has on the shelf, That's what she's bringing to the Congress while important legislation is getting passed that will, for the first time in a generation, bring millions of people out of poverty. She's tweeting about Joe Biden's dogs. That's funny shit. Just want to bring those two things up because it's good to have things to laugh at, Anyway, what else we got here? One last thing. So we're at an hour 42 in. Right. One last thing I want to talk about, and then I'll read some... I will read some comments that you guys have. This is something I want to show you. So, there's been lots of good news recently about vaccines. And, a record number of people being vaccinated. In fact, I'm going to take a really quick look, right? Number of people vaccinated, USA. And let's see. We have from NPR.org the number of people being vaccinated. And where are we at? Does it just have a total? Oh, wait, it's by a state-by-state thing. Oh, no, the entire thing. So there have been, so far, this is from NPR.org, right? This is the COVID-19 vaccination tracker, which is kind of nice, in case you guys ever want to keep track about how many people have been vaccinated and whatnot. And the entire, 100 million doses administered and 133 million doses distributed. Very, very nice. Oh, sorry. Keep in mind that back in December, this was under 20 million. So, most of this, the vast majority of these doses administered was during the, Biden administration. This was the Biden people that got this done, right? So there's lots of congratulations going around, Joe Biden is getting some really good press for this, and he deserves it. He deserves it because, he definitely is not dropping the ball on this thing. So, March 10th, 3 days ago, this comes out of the Donald Trump The office of Donald J. Trump. So, in case you guys don't know, right? This shit is hilarious. Let me just make this a little bit smaller so you guys can see it, right? Because this is funny shit. Donald J. Trump has set up a alternative office in the in Mar-a-Lago, right? The office of the 45th president of the United States, like he's a president in exile or some shit like that, right? And this is something we're seeing because, of course, we all know he's been banned from Twitter. So he's figured out a way that he can get his message out without Twitter, and it's by putting out these official press releases. And then other people will just tweet them for him, right? And I really hope that Twitter just starts banning this shit too, But this is an official press release from the office of Donald J. Trump. Statement by Donald J. Trump, 45th President of the United States of America. You notice it doesn't say former president. This is a dog whistle to all of his QAnon followers who still think he's the legitimate president. That's what this is. Anyway, I hope everyone remembers when they're getting the COVID-19, often referred to as the China virus vaccine, that if I wasn't president, you wouldn't be getting that beautiful shot, in quotes, for 5 years at best, and probably wouldn't be getting it at all. I hope everyone remembers. This is the most pathetic thing I've ever seen in my entire life. This is so incredibly sad and ridiculous, and just it's like he's a baby. Isn't it? It's like he's a baby trying to take credit for somebody else's work. Remember, Donald Trump had a vaccine too, right? For like 3 months, they had a vaccine out there. He couldn't, it was at 20 million people. That's how many he had 3 months, right? I mean, Biden is in charge for 3 months, and he gets that number over 100 million. So 3/4 of that. There's no comparison about who deserves the real credit here. So, no, fuck Donald Trump. He doesn't get any credit at all. Zero, First off, what did he do that any other president would have done? So what? He gave some federal money to the development of these vaccines, right? Can you name any other president that wouldn't have done the same thing? Any president. It's not like a president would just be like, no, we're not going to invest in creating a vaccine. No, that's fucking bullshit, right? Some of these vaccines that we have didn't get any federal money at all. So does he get credit for those? No, right? Did he try to help people once he got the vaccine? Did he have a national plan on distributing it to everybody? No. He was telling people last year, that this was a hoax and that it would just go away and that it's just like the flu and and to inject fucking fishbowl cleaner into themselves. And a couple of people did. That's another thing you got to remember. Some people actually did take him up, when he told everybody to fucking shoot up hydroxychloroquine. A couple of people actually did it and fucking died, which is just another example of when Republicans lie, people actually die. That happened. Somebody was fucking dumb enough to inject that shit into themselves because the president of the United States told them to, right? So, no, he had an entire fucking year to get this shit under control. He couldn't fucking do it. And now that the next guy, manages to actually give us a little bit of a ray of hope for the first time in a year, President fucking sphincter mouth McBurger fuck over here whines and cries like a goddamn baby, trying to fucking steal some of his credit. It's the most pathetic thing ever. Pathetic. Let me turn this shit off. I don't know. And plus also, I can't, I like how he has to throw a little bit of racism in there. often referred to as the China virus. You just got to throw in that little bit of racism, you can't forget, right? Never mind the fact that, like, there are people out there, Asians around the country being, like, assaulted, hate crimes going up against Asians around the entire fucking country because of people blaming them for the fucking pandemic. Because assholes like Donald Trump keep, like, spreading this fucking, spreading this hate and shit. It's ridiculous. And it's like, I don't know. I can't understand. Even today, there's still people that are still delusional enough into thinking that he was, like, a good president and that he won the election and that, like, it was stolen from him. And even today, I'll go on Reddit and I'll debate people and they'll say shit like, oh, we're ignoring the Trump miracle, which supposedly was the economy and all that. It's like, get the fuck out of here. This guy's your fucking miracle. I don't know. It makes me sick inside. Makes me absolutely sick inside. And it's like, anyway, let's turn that shit off. It's making me fucking, I don't know, it's making my fucking head hurt. Just the fact that it's like, I can't understand how anybody could even read that and take it seriously, Because some people are, and that's the thing, is that, okay, you and I, we see that, it's like, instantly you just start laughing at it. It's on the fucking Late Late Show with Stephen Colbert or whatever. Everybody laughs at it. It's a big joke. Ha, 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 ha. Right? There's millions of people who are going to read that and think that, yeah, right on, it was Donald Trump that got us. He is the one that created the vaccine, blah, blah, blah. He's the one that personally himself went into the laboratory and created the vaccine himself, and he deserves all the credit. There's really good people that fall for it. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous, and it kind of like, makes you fucking wonder how the fuck the human race has survived so long. Right. Anyway, exactly. Louis the Hedgehog. Ever notice how the Republican plan, works just after they leave office? Exactly. Oh yeah. Okay. The economy is really good after they leave. The vaccines are getting out after they're gone. You're 100% right. Anyway, guys, let's go ahead and we're at 152. Let's read some of the comments here. First off, let's look and see where we're at. Kind of get most of the drawing into the picture here. It's starting to kind of go up a little. Looking pretty good. Wouldn't you say? It's actually supposed to be this way, but well, this is the bottom. I don't know. I'm just kind of doodling here. It's looking all right, I think. But continue on with it. Not too bad. Okay, let's read some comments. Let's see. Going way back to the top. Is that guy wearing an Uncle Tom t-shirt? Man, even Ruckus couldn't make this up. Wait, what? What are you talking about? Is that guy wearing an Uncle Tom t-shirt? Oh, you mean, in the picture? Like the marquee picture for the stream? Yeah, what can you say, man? Trump supporters. Right. Let's see, what else we got here? Nearly 8 p.m. Really? Are you in, you're in Europe, right, Sean? Wow, sorry, dude, I'll try not to keep you waiting. Okay, what else we got? Louis the Hedgehog, they said vaccines cause autism, but is it any worse than other diseases? Is autism any worse than the other diseases? You mean? I don't know. I mean, I guess if you're autistic, you're not, dead. So what do you mean by, like, what other diseases are you talking about? Like, I mean, like, 'cause you're talking about like anti-vaxxers and the shit that they claim vaccines cause, like other diseases that vaccines cause. I know that it wasn't always autism that they claimed vaccines caused. I know that in the beginning it was like, well, in the beginning it was like the idea that vaccines would just give you the disease, right? That was one of the reasons against, that the anti-vaxxers would put out there. It's like, oh, you're giving me the flu, and that's bad for you. And then I know that also it also had to do with, like, what was in the vaccine itself, like you know, mercury in the preservatives and shit like that. And the autism angle didn't really show up until like the early 2000s, I think, maybe the late 90s. I think the actual study, there's like this debunked study that they all use to say that, you know, this is what the study that caused, you know, that links vaccines to autism. That didn't actually happen until the 90s. So, you know, but I know that even before that study, there was like lots of people just claiming that, you know, that vaccines caused various health problems, you know. So that, I mean, that's more like that. That's a development that kind of came around about, yeah, like it really got spread once the internet became widespread in the early 2000s. Then suddenly it was like any, you know, because then any moron can go set up a fucking website and claim any kind of bullshit they want. And that's kind of when it started to like that's kind of when it started to like to be taken over by right wingers. Right? So, you know, it started in the alternative medicine sort of new age kind of movement, and has definitely nowadays seems to be more prevalent along like the NWO QAnon people. So, um, Lewis the Hedgehog, you know what you call alternative medicine that works? Medicine. Totally. Yes, yes. Because it wouldn't be alternative medicine if it actually had some, you know, if it had some observable, repeatable effects, you know, then it wouldn't be alternative. You're absolutely right. If putting power crystals and shit on top of people's bodies actually like cured cancer, then, you know, normal doctors would be doing that. Right. If you know, holistic medicine, you know, what do they call that when they take the they dilute medicine and you know, what did it, God, what is that, what is, there's a name for it where you take like, you take an element and then you dilute it in lots of water, you know, and then like the water is supposed to have memory, and then you drink that and that's supposed to cure your illness. There's a word for it which I can't remember. Um, but anyway, yeah, that's like if that kind of shit actually worked, you know, that sort of like alternative medicine woo, then exactly right. You'd be you know, there'd be major hospitals and shit doing it. So, let's see what else we got here. Going back, blah 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 blah. They said vaccines caused autism. I never did. Yes, of course, Lewis. I know that you weren't. Yeah, I'm just saying. Right. I wasn't accusing you of being an anti-vaxxer, Lewis. You know, no worries. Um, let's see. Sean Illibud, Thimerosal removed from vaccines since 2013, I think. That's the element that was derived from mercury, right? Yeah, I remember reading about that, and apparently it's like the amount of mercury that you would get from a vaccine prior to that is like the same amount that you would get from eating a fish. But they took it out anyway because it to assure people's fears, and I can understand why they did that, you know, because they want people to take vaccines, right? So, you know, if they can preserve them in a different way, like if they can use a different preservative, then fuck it, why not? And I don't think it hurts anybody. I mean, I think it maybe is unnecessary, you know, and it's kind of sad that we can't get the general public to just understand fucking science and not have to worry about this shit. But if it means that more people will take vaccines if you remove a certain, you know, preservative from it, then it's the right decision, in my opinion. Um, let's see. Matthews Tau Megalou Alexandru. I'm not going to pronounce that every single time, sorry, but I'll just say Mathetes? Is that how you pronounce that? Mathetes? If only a safe reopening of economy is most wanted under a Democrat. Ha ha ha. Did you see Rick Scott going about take the relief money away? It's basically the exact bully scenario you spoke about that I weep. Really? Wait. Rick Scott is going to take the relief money away? Um, I'll have to look that up because I'm not really familiar with what you're talking about. Is he like going to somehow like cancel the or opt out of the stimulus checks? Can he do that? Like, because this is a federal law, right? So can the governor just be like if they pass stimulus checks, can the governor of a state just be like, okay, no one in my state's getting them? Like, I don't know. If they can, that's fucked up. If they can do that, I don't think they can. I don't think there's a now what they could do is they could pass some kind of law, I think, that says, okay, well, stimulus checks will be taxed at 100%. They could do that. But I don't think he has the ability to just like, because it's not like a program, right? That the state has to opt into. It's an actual federal law that's being passed. So that it's like a budget spending law, right? This thing. So that kind of means that this money has to be used for that. It can't be used for anything else. So if the states are getting money for certain programs, for example, from this, they have to be used for those programs. And if they get diverted to something else, that's illegal. So I don't know. I'll have to look up and see what you're talking about because I don't think that is within the power of a governor to just cancel cancel stimulus checks that come from the federal government. You know what I mean? But I don't know. I'll look and see what I can find. Um, let's see, Lewis. What do you call a government that is run like a family business? A monarchy. Yeah, yeah. Um, I really do think that the Trump people just didn't understand what a government is and what a government does. And I think that's a problem with a lot of conservatives who always try to vote in these businessmen, to run things. Mitt Romney, for example, like I remember you know, um, back in 2012, right, during that election, right, that during the CPAC that year, I think it was CPAC, right, where Clint Eastwood got up and did a speech, right? Maybe it might not have been CPAC. Maybe it was just some other like conservative fucking, conservative rally fucking convention or some shit. Anyway, Clint Eastwood gets up and talks about business and how business is so great and maybe we need to get a businessman to run things. And he was endorsing Mitt Romney, for president. And, I think this kind of shows what happens, like, because, the government is not a business and it should not be run like a business, right? Government is not in the business of making money, for example. What do you do with a business, right? All business really is an enterprise to make money. That's what it is. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's capitalism. That's the system we live under is capitalism. When you're in business, you're in it for the cash. And that's not a bad thing in my opinion. It's the way you go about it, I think is, where we have the difference, right? But, that's what they're there for. Businesses are not there to help people. Businesses are not there to, in, you know, improve society or to give people rights or to ensure that, a fair and equitable society or to enforce laws. They're not there for any of that shit. They're there to sell you goods and services. And this idea that, I think a lot of conservatives, specifically, Republicans, right? Because I always I want to say exactly Republicans because not all conservative are Republicans, right? But specifically them, they don't understand that the government is not there. It's not in that, like these are two separate things, right? The government is not supposed to be providing goods and services. They're supposed to be providing, promoting an equitable society that works. And, through the system that we, democratic republic system that we have. Right? And that's what it is. And because of the system we have, you don't always get 100% of what you want. For example, in this last bill, we didn't get the raising the $15 minimum wage, which is something a lot of people on the left really wanted that, and it really would have helped a lot of people, and we didn't get it. But it's like, you know, this is what we have. This is how it works. This is the system we have that we can barely get a people to agree on anything, right? And that's not how a business works. A business is not democratic usually. You know what I mean? Although there are forms of businesses which are much more democratic. Things like collectives and all that kind of thing. Usually, a capitalistic, in a capitalistic society, a business is usually run by a person who makes all the decisions. The president of the company, the CEO, whatever, right? And maybe there might be a board of directors or something that have a little bit of power, you know, but it's usually not a very democratic system. Usually the president or the CEO or whatever decides something, and the people below him execute, and there really is no pushback. They can do what they want. It's your company. You can do whatever you want with it. You start a company, right? You can sell whatever you want. You can change the entire company. Let's say you make a company selling windshield wipers, and then one day you decide, we're going to make video games. It's your company. You do whatever the fuck you want, right? You can decide, okay, we're going to fire all the windshield wiper guys, and we're going to hire a bunch of fucking programmers, and we're going to make Windshield Wiper 2000 on the fucking PlayStation 4, and it'll be a game about a guy cleaning windshields. Whatever, You can do this because it's yours. It's yours. You own it. It belongs to you, You can do whatever you want. You could shut it down tomorrow if you wanted. You could be like, you know what, I'm done. I'm retired. Everybody's fired. I'm selling the business. I'm out of here. Who's going to stop you? Nobody. Because it belongs to you. It's yours. Right? You can run it into the ground if you feel like it. I mean, of course there are laws and regulations, blah, 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 blah. But the point I'm getting at is that, businesses are dictatorships. Government, the United States government is not a dictatorship. There are rules involved. And you're not even the one who's in charge of everything. Even if you're the president, you're not in charge of everything. Congress isn't a separate, equal branch of government. Completely separate. Congressmen do not work for the president, right? The courts are completely separate. They don't work for the president. They don't work for Congress. These three branches are in opposition of each other. At least that's how they're supposed to be. They're supposed to be in opposition of each other, right? It would be ideal if, the ideal American setup is that these three branches police each other. That's how it's supposed to work, right? That's not how it actually works in real life. In real life, if they're in opposition, nothing ever gets done. So we actually do need to have a party that controls at least some of it, right? We've seen the practical application of having the Congress run by a different party than the president, for example. Just everything grounds to a fucking halt. Nothing fucking happens. Because, you have politicians fucking doing everything for their own personal gain or whatnot, and we can have that discussion later. That's a much deeper systemic problem with our government that I think, is definitely worth talking about. It needs to be changed, But the point is that, you don't get to just randomly fucking decide whatever the fuck you want to do. And if you look at the all throughout the Trump years, that's kind of how they treated it. They kind of treated the government like a business where, Donald Trump is used to just getting whatever he wants. And if he doesn't get what he wants, he's just going to do it anyway. He wants to build a wall. Congress won't give him the money for the wall. So he goes and he takes it from takes it illegally from the Pentagon, which was illegal. He wasn't allowed to do that, right? He should have been impeached for that shit. That's illegal, Does it anyway. Gets away with it. That kind of thing. There's hundreds of examples of that for the last 4 years, George W. Bush used to do shit like that too. all the time and would constantly get away with it. And I think that's a fundamental misunderstanding that conservatives in general just have about the function of government. It's not supposed to be there to benefit the people who are in charge of it. It's not supposed to make money, right? The government is not supposed to, government program is not supposed to come back in the red. It's supposed to spend money, right? That's what tax dollars are there for. All of this, like, they talk about austerity and shit like that. Oh, we need to cut taxes. We need to get rid of the debt and deficit and all this shit. It's all bullshit. That's the complete opposite of what a government should be doing. Government should be collecting taxes and spending them on people. That's to help people's lives. So, anyway, could probably make an entire fucking stream about that. Let's move on before I like have a fucking brain aneurysm here. Let's see what else we got here. Life of One Life of Gods. Biden's dogs have more sense than Lauren Babbler. Yeah, totally. Lewis, didn't Trump lose millions of vaccine doses? Yes, I did read something about that. I read something about how, there was like millions of doses went missing or something. And apparently it's like some of that ended up on the black market, I don't want to talk too much to that because I don't really have all the information, but I did read something about how some of that got hijacked and there's a possible criminal investigation that may be opened into like what happened and where did it go. And like, because you can go on like the dark web and pay about $300 to get like a dose of like vaccine right now. So I don't know. There may be some more developments about that, but I don't want to really speak to that because I don't really have the information for that just yet. I have to do a little more research. I would like to bring that up in a later stream though, because it would be interesting, and I really wouldn't doubt that there was some grifting going on there. You know what I mean? Some pandemic profiteering happening during the Trump years. I would not be, and actually I wouldn't be surprised if it was just still happening right now, right? Even during the Biden administration, I wouldn't be surprised if there was some profiteering happening. Let's see. Getting a little. I think we're about 2 hours. Yeah. Lewis, homeopathy. That's what I was talking about with the diluting water. Daddy Cat loves me. Looks like I missed it all. Nunez actually said he worked for President Trump. Scott was talking about the aid for state and city governments. Okay, so he's talking about removing the aid for state and city governments from the stimulus package. Yeah, I don't think he can do that. I don't think a state can take federal dollars that was going, as part of a bill like this and just use it for other shit. I think I don't know. I'll have to look into that, but I think that's illegal. I don't think that you can just like, the governor of a state can just be like, okay, because what that is, it's money that's it's part of a law. It's like the federal spending bill, and that money has to be used for it has to be used for what it's set aside for. So I'll have to look into that. Anyway, I think I should probably end this here. It looks like YouTube is giving me errors saying that my streaming is getting screwed up. So, and plus we're already at 2 hours. Let's go ahead and end it. Anyway, thank you guys for joining. I'm going to go ahead and give my ending speech here. Before I do that, thank you, Dana Cat, for joining. Thank you, Lewis a Hedgehog. It's great to see you, as always. Thank you, One Life of Gods. You're awesome. And Sean Nillabud and Adversary Fandon. Thank you guys for joining. And also Mathetis to Megaloo Alexandro. Did I pronounce that right? Thank you for joining as well. You are all really, really cool. So before we end it, I just have to give my ending speech that I have to do every time. Please, if you like what I do, like and subscribe. You know, it actually helps when you do say like and subscribe, because that helps the algorithm. Whoa, things are getting jacked up there. What's going on with my stream? Yeah, the stream is getting funky. I'm not really sure what's happening. So yeah, why don't I just end it now? Let me turn on my monitor here. You know, and so yeah. Anyway, if you like what I do, folks, please consider following me on social media. You know, this is my webcomic. It is about ninjas and stuff. It's at hawanja.com, so please come check out my webcomic. If you want to support me monetarily, I have a SD shop that you can, you know, join and buy stuff from me, you know. So please, if you like what I do, here's the piece that we worked on over the last like 5 streams. You know, I think it turned out pretty good. So if you like what I do, please consider buying something. I put the you know, URL down in the chat. If you want to see more of my artwork, this is my artwork. It's my DeviantArt page. You know, I draw monsters and crap like that. You know, that kind of thing. You can download any of these too. Here's the other Wall of Flesh thing that we did over the last 5 streams. You can just like download it here if you just want a digital copy. That's totally cool with me. And I also have another YouTube channel where I talk about video games and toys, and I do live streams for you know, gaming live streams, that kind of thing. So please check me out on UCD videos if you want to see me talk about non-political stuff. Okay, and thank you all so much. I think we'll probably end it here because my stream is looking funky, if it's not all fucked up already. So thank you all so much. You know, thank you, Dynacat, and thank you, everybody. And I don't know what's wrong with my internet access, but hopefully it'll come back later and won't be so screwed up next time. I could see it's still all like weird and choppy. Anyway, thank you guys all so much, and I think we'll just go ahead and end this now. And, you know, see you all next week at 11 a.m. I'll try to do it at 11 a.m. next Saturday. All right. Talk to you guys later. Bye.